Hello and welcome to Cargo Cafe. As always, I'm your host, Libby Hausman. I'm joined today by Chance Pope, our Director of Operations here at Bestway International. Chance, thanks for being here.
Of course. Really excited about today's topic.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a really good one. You've been on the show before, but it's been a while. I was trying to remember the last time you were here, but...
We did the emerging markets
Right.
for Eastern Europe. I don't know, that was a couple months. Yeah.
But I feel like I say this every month, but it's true every month. We have an amazing guest here to talk about an exciting topic. We're getting into air exports today with Mary Borkovich from Cathay Pacific. Mary has more than 35 years of experience in the aviation industry, including 23 years with American Airlines and the past 13 years with Cathay Pacific. Throughout her career, she has built expertise in cargo operations, customer service, account management, and transportation solutions. In her current role at Cathay Pacific, Mary works closely with customers, freight forwarders, and internal operation teams to manage cargo bookings and deliver efficient, reliable shipping solutions, something everybody loves. She's passionate about solving complex logistics challenges, building strong customer relationships, and collaborating with diverse teams to ensure every shipment moves seamlessly from origin to destination. So we're super excited to have Mary here. Let's go ahead and bring her out.
Hi, Libby. Hi, Chance.
Hey, Mary.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
We're really excited to have you. You've always been a longtime supporter of Bestway and one of our favorites. So really glad that
You've become one of my favorites too.
Well, we love to hear that, even if you're just saying it for today. Try not to cause too many headaches.
Never.
In this industry, that's probably inevitable, though. So we appreciate your support and being here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at Cathay Pacific and what your team does to help U.S. exporters?
Sure. I'm in a sales account manager. I did come from the inside sales support team, so I kind of have a feeling for both sides of that because the jobs are very different. And our role together as a team is we strive for excellence from the booking stage to delivery at the destination with the consignee and everything that happens in between. And that can be quite a bit. And we are poised to take action at any point with any problem that arises. We deal with customs issues, packaging. If something shows up at the dock, it's not correct, we make contact with the forwarders and just get everything resolved as quickly and safely as possible. Always safety first.
we love that. I know our team especially loves when anytime something's remotely off. You're one of the first people to call and let us know, and helps us resolve the problem before we get any deeper there. So Mary, a lot of our audience maybe haven't ever exported by air before. In your opinion, what are the biggest advantages to air freight as opposed to ocean freight?
Well, the biggest and foremost would be time, obviously. We can get something to the other side of the world within days, 3 to 4 days, if it's going all the way to the South Pacific, where ocean freight, I'm not an expert on ocean freight by any means, but it takes months to get there. If you've got something critical that needs to move, life-saving medicine, AOGs, aircraft on the ground parts, that's when you want to fly. Medicines that need time and temperature sensitive handling, that's when you want an airline.
Absolutely. So what types of products are best suited for air exports, in your opinion?
We specialize, our airline, Cathay Pacific, we specialize in specialty cargo, but for something that is critical, time and temperature sensitive, such as pharmaceuticals, which we are expert at carrying those products, life-saving medicines. And I'm talking about a cancer patient in India who needs a microdose of something that's going to save their life. That's when you come to an airline, and a reputable airline. We move perishable goods. Right now it's cherry season on the Pacific Northwest. we are moving tons and tons of cherries to the other side of the world, which is something some people might not think about because you think of Japan and all the cherries and the blossoms, but we export tons of cherries. Avocados from California. We partner with South American airlines and we bring products up from South America and ship them all over the world from our Miami hub. From Chicago, we have a lot of meats that we send abroad. So it's anything that needs special handling is when you want to come to an airline.
I think you may have just answered this, but when would you say air freight makes the most financial sense despite the higher transportation cost?
Something that is extremely sensitive, such as that life-saving medicine, pharmaceuticals, trial shipments, where the product can have no variation with temperature because it's going to be a trial. So if there's anything wrong with that shipment, there's going to be a problem. The trial is shot. AOGs, aircraft on the ground, and we, not just our airline, but we handle aircraft engines and parts for all the airlines. So if, let's say United has an aircraft on the ground, they need a part because they're losing money every minute that aircraft is on the ground. So it needs to go by air and it needs to get there fast.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that because nobody likes a delayed flight. So, that's always huge. In your opinion, how would you say that the air cargo industry has changed over the past few years?
The most drastic change is with digitalization and technology that is coming at us. And it's almost at a daily pace right now. We are considering ourselves the leaders in digitalization. We have our Cargo Digital Hub up where it can be virtually 24/7 for agents like yourself with Best Way to get online, track and trace. Hate to say it, but you could almost do a booking and do it without any human intervention. Of course, we don't want that. But it's major. It's eliminating paperwork, reducing the chance for errors because people aren't manually typing in data, which, as you know, is quite extensive on an airway bill, all the numbers, foreign addresses that can be very overwhelming to certain parts of the world. So all that digitalization is really working in favor for both the forwarder, the shipper, and the airline. And then back in 2021, the big change that came was the 100% screening of all cargo not on just the passenger flights, but on cargo aircraft. So that changed the way we do business as an airline. It changed the way you do business as a freight forwarder.
Absolutely. Yeah, that 2021 rule definitely threw a wrench into the spokes for a little bit there. But that is something that I think we probably should have highlighted a little bit towards the beginning is one thing Cathay does, and you can obviously speak more than I can on this, that a lot of airlines don't, is that you do offer that freighter service instead of just the belly of an aircraft. You have dedicated aircraft that are fully, they're just moving cargo, right? What factors do you think exporters should consider when they're selecting an airline or a routing, in your opinion?
You need to get it with an airline that best suits your needs, of course. Find one that has a reputation for customer service, customer obsession, and make sure that they are going to the places that you want to go. The transit is reasonable. We service all of Asia, India, Africa, Southwest Pacific, and we're based in Hong Kong, which makes us very centrally located for that part of the world. So if you're shipping to Asia or any of those, you want to come with Cathay Pacific. If you're going to a Middle East destination only, perhaps you want to go with a Middle Eastern carrier. Unfortunately, oftentimes it's cost driven. And like any industry in this world, it is you get what you pay for. So, what are you looking for? But you want to go with someone who is going to partner with you, get to know you, and even get to know the shipper because it's a domino effect here. So you got to do your homework and getting a relationship with that airline with your representative is key. And loyalty does get rewarded in this industry. It really does.
We consider Cathay a premium carrier, and it's not about a rate. It's about the service that we get from you and your team and everybody involved, and including a customer visit that wasn't even in your market. That helped us land a pretty big shipper here in the last year, a year and a half. So the service from Cathay is impeccable.
I had a question about something you said in your answer. You talked about transit times when considering an airline, which is obviously super important. Do you find that there's a lot of variation in transit times to the same destination between airlines?
Absolutely. We have regularly scheduled freighter service. We have 5 freighters a week, sometimes 6, depending on what's coming in. Some airlines, they have maybe one freighter a week going to their port, and that's a big thing, because if you miss your lockout for something that's only flying once a week, your cargo's sitting there for a whole nother week, and then maybe even longer depending on where it's going beyond that port's hub. So it does make sense. It's worth doing your homework.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just curious about that, because you would kind of think it would all be roughly the same, but that's an interesting call out. I want to go back to technology a little bit, and we talked about it briefly before, but what role does technology play today in improving shipment visibility and communication?
It gives the freight forwarder the opportunity for 24/7 visibility on their shipment. As I mentioned, from booking to destination, they can follow along. We have real-time temperature readings that are available. If you're sending something that is temperature sensitive, you can tell from our Cargo Digital Hub when something has made it through customs, when it's been delivered. It's really quite amazing how autonomous the whole process can be with the digitalization. And it's only getting better. It's only getting improved, and we just really want to be on the forefront of that. And we're pushing it, and people are embracing it and moving along with it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I feel like we're at an interesting point right now where there's this balance between technology improving efficiencies and also keeping the relationship side of the business. Like you mentioned earlier, loyalty is rewarded, and it almost feels like maybe we went really far into technology and it's kind of swinging back to a middle ground where people are wanting human relationships again and looking for that kind of connection.
It's you maybe have to work a little bit harder on keeping those relationships, because if someone went online and booked and never came to it can easily just go through the system unnoticed, unless of course there's a problem. Then you're going to come to us for help. But digitalization, it's a beast and it's a burden, but it's fantastic, and we're going to embrace it and go forward.
Excuse me, are there any emerging international markets or trade lanes that you think exporters should be paying attention to that maybe they aren't right now?
Back in probably as far back as last year, we saw a dramatic shift from mainland China to Southeast Asia and India for manufacturing. It had not just impacting imports and exports, because we are exporting the pieces in the product to make the actual item in those destinations, and then it's being shipped back to the United States. So that has been a drastic change for us. Our Southeast Asian flights are full. Same with India, most notably because of the situation in the Middle East. Some of the Middle Eastern airlines were greatly impacted by that because they could not fly to those destinations. Also, things with the Strait of Hormuz being closed. Well, it's primarily oil, but when the Panama Canal was low on water and the ships couldn't get through, where are you going to go with your cargo? You need to go with an airline. So freight forwarders and everyone, you just really need to be aware of the geopolitical situations throughout the world and act quickly, be resilient and agile.
Yeah, it seems like we have to be paying attention to the news, even if we don't like to watch the news.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what do you see that exporters can do to build stronger relationships with their freight forwarders and their airline partners to help kind of improve that long-term success?
Get to know the people that you are speaking with, get to know their needs, get to know their products, and that's the from the airline to the forwarder and from the forwarder to the shipper, because we all need to be on the same page. I need to understand what your needs are. You need to understand what the shipper's needs are. And being in front of the people, because like I said, with the digitalization, it's easy to get lost and you have to have your face out there. Attending industry specific events for the shipper, for the forwarder, for the airline. The Kansas City event is such a great event that you guys host because it's a mix of everybody. So you get to see and talk with, truckers, airlines, freight forwarders. It's a wonderful event. And that's how you get your name out there. That's how you stay visible, because being visible is key. And just getting that relationship going and keeping it, even if it's just an email, a shout out, hey, how are you? Or announcing a new lane. That obviously the media will announce new traffic, but I would love to call and tell you guys, hey, guess what? We have an extra freighter to Saigon because that's a hot destination for you guys. So just being out there, going above and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And if I can just, brag on the Kansas City market for a second, since I've started Cargo Cafe, I have found that everyone is willing to help you and willing to talk. And we have a really great community here in the Kansas City metro, and being at those events and meeting people, that's a great way to deepen those relationships and really, keep things going there. So had to give a little shout out to our Kansas City community.
How do you think exporters can prepare their shipments to minimize delays and ensure smooth movement?
The documents must be correct. And packaging. Those are the two top things. And the documents, boy, that's a long list of items. But starting with the airway bill, because that has all the information relating to all the other documents, and the labeling, of course, on the proper packaging is key, because any little hiccup is going to get flagged, and the cargo will be held. If it doesn't get held here in Chicago, and it happens, I mean, things get slipped by, but it will get caught in transit and then it's held there, and now you're delayed and hung up. So proper packaging, proper documentation with the airway bill, packing list, invoices, it all needs to be exact. There can't be any, well, it looks close. It's got to be exact. And we do offer, we call it our CAOP course. It's a cargo agent operating procedures. And it covers all bases of a freight forwarder. If you're a frontline employee, if you are in the warehouse, if you're filling out documents, those courses will prepare you for the duties that you do to ensure that your cargo is being dropped off at not only our facility, but any facility with proper packaging and documentation.
I love that. I love that you guys are providing resources, not just, it's expected that you know what's required, right? And this industry changes constantly, and the regulations change. And you know better than anybody, but the regulations between the United States, plus you guys are based in Hong Kong, and then all of the different destinations you go to beyond that, and there's different regulations in every one of those markets. And so I think it's really awesome that you guys provide some resources. One thing before we move on to the next question, I really wanted to highlight just for our viewers out there is that just a reminder that the airline's not refusing to move the product because they want to make things difficult, right? Ultimately, those frontline employees that are accepting the cargo, responsible for the safety of life and trying to keep an airplane in the sky, right? And sometimes we lose sight of that. And so I just think that's an important piece to drop in there for our audience. Move on to the next question, Mary. How can exporters? Oh, I already did that one. I apologize.
Okay.
This is your question.
It is, but I was going to let you run with it if you wanted it. We talked about documents a little bit in the previous question. There's so much to get into there, but is there one document in your experience that exporters should pay the closest attention to, the one that is probably the most common to have some errors?
It is the airway bill, because again, that is where all the information is contained. It is actually a contract, a signed contract between the airline and the freight forwarder. It's a legal document, just like when you buy an airline ticket to fly somewhere. That ticket is a legal obligation between you, if you purchased it, and the airline. So the airway bill must be correct. Of course, customs filing must be exact. That is, when things get stuck in customs because a problem was not caught, and I hate to say it, but it's almost like we have to put our hands up because it's customs. We can be in contact with them and relate to you, but it's customs call. They are the ones making the decision as to what needs to be fixed, what when it can be released. So the airway bill and customs filing.
Yeah, and is there any like specific portion of the airway bill that you find common mistakes on, or is it just making sure the entire document is, squared away?
Entire document, because there's so many, that the handling box needs to be correct, the piece and the weight count. It must match. It must match the cargo and the document, which they must match exactly, which is kind of a feat because most forwarders never see the cargo. If you're an agent at a desk, you never see the cargo. You're relying on the documents that have been given to you. So that's a challenge and same with me. If I get a call from you guys that there's a problem in JFK, which is a true story, and I can only be the middle person here. So having everything correct is the best way from top to bottom to avoid those kind of problems.
And for those, shippers out there that are working with a freight forwarder, most of the time the freight forwarder is going to prepare those documents for you. But it's important to review those documents because you're one last final check, right? And, and to Mary's point about the customs, if you're exporting, it's a really good idea to send those draft documents over to your customer at the destination and have them take a look at it, have their customs broker look at it. Just one more set of eyes that might find a discrepancy that could potentially hold up a shipment or cause a delay. Little off script here, Mary, but recently IATA has changed some regulations on the direct airway bill. Do you have any comments on that, or anything you can tell us about those changes with the direct airway bill and the liability?
It has not affected or impacted my specific duty. It may on the backside, the warehouse or at destination, but for me personally, I haven't seen any issues with it. And probably because I'm not handling those documents, and little effect on me personally, and I think most of the salespeople. But the warehouse, the guys that are handling the airway bills, they might have another story for you, seeing things differently and at destination.
That's interesting. I kind of steamrolled over your next question, so I'm just going to keep going here for a little bit. We're a little all over the place, but moving to a new document, how can exporters ensure that the commercial invoice contains all the information that the customs authorities need?
That's perfection, because you as a forwarder, you receive the invoice, you cannot change it. You can't touch it. And you probably have not seen the cargo either. So it is your responsibility and ours to make sure that that document matches exactly the cargo that is being transported. So and again, that's another item that there's no room for error. Customs will find it. It will get held. It will get flagged. And then again, I can't change it. You can't change it. You have to go chase down your shipper. And heaven forbid it's a weekend or a holiday, the thing is going to sit until it's corrected. So perfection, the invoice must be perfect.
Do you think, when we talk about perfection, that kind of makes me think back to how we were talking about technology. Is that a space that maybe technology could come in and reduce some human errors?
Boy, I would like to think so. Run through Copilot and see what he has to say. But yeah, I think definitely that is not far down the line, that because when you are looking for perfection, people are going to make mistakes. It will happen. It does happen. So that is where, IT technology would really come in and be a very valuable tool for everyone, because nobody wants to see anything stuck. we all want our cargo to move.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it just causes additional problems for you guys too, right? You accept the freight and now it's just sitting and clogging up the warehouse, or it's we all want it to move, right? So just staying on the documentation theme, when is a packing list required, and what details do you think could be helped or could be included to help avoid any customs delays?
The packing list is required for virtually all international shipments from or at the origin, apologize. The information must be exact. Again, we are looking for perfection. It must include the gross and net weight of each package inside. If it's a big carton or a crate, everything must match.
So we've talked a little bit about airway bills, commercial invoices, packing lists. What are some other documents that you typically see come across, or if any?
Well, when it comes to like licensing and certificates and things like that, and that's another document that we don't typically see. We are made aware of it when the problem comes up because it gets to destination or flagged in transit in Hong Kong. And then that's when we reach out to you. And if it's a licensed item that if it's missing something, a USDA stamp, let's say, and those documents need to be original. That's a problem, and it happens often because that is again, it's a customs thing. We can't send a copy. It's got to be the original document with the stamp on it. So and it can vary by product. It varies by country. And certain countries are very, very particular. Off the top of my head, I will think of Jakarta, where if there's one digit off on what they would call a zip code, it's being held until it's corrected. And some of the addresses, I'm telling you, they are so long. You can't, like, every letter in the alphabet is in every single word, and the numbers are very long, and you're not really understanding. Like we have 605 South Story Street with a zip code, but theirs are very different. So all those particulars with the licenses, packing list, invoices, it's all got to be perfect, and it must match the cargo.
It seems like there's a theme here. For those of us who maybe need a geography lesson, where is Jakarta?
Jakarta is in Southeast Asia. It is, I want to say, near Singapore, that area. Singapore, people are more familiar with that area. CGK is the city code.
I knew Chance was wondering, so thank you for that. Moving on here, what role does the harmonized system, the HS codes, play in air exports?
It is extremely vital to get those digits right because it is how the taxes and duties are calculated. So the HS code has got to be, I believe there's 6 digits to it. So they all must be correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Mary, but countries restrict certain items, and that's all tied back to the commodity codes so they know what's coming in, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
What about electronic export information, or EEI? When's that required, and anything you would give, any advice you'd give to exporters before they file?
It's required for any shipment over $2,500 that is of the same commodity. So it has to have, again, going back to the HS code, those 6 digits, it has to be, if you've got an item, if you've got a big crate and you've got a $1,500 HS code and you've got a $2,000 HS code, and they're different, it doesn't apply. It all has to be the exact same, like a pair. It's got to be all shoes, men's footwear with laces, something that specific. If it's over $2,500, then it will need the HS.
That's interesting. I didn't realize there was kind of a threshold for when that was needed and when it's not. So that's definitely interesting. Type of products require additional documentation. We talked about export licenses, certificates of origin, and other government approvals. Are there certain, markets that need that compared to others?
Yes, controlled or restricted items thinking, medicines, drugs, especially in I don't know, chemicals, a lot of dangerous goods, firearms, restricted technology, especially in this age of technology wars and things like that. They all require special licensing and documentation, um, and that again will vary by country too. So it's very, very, very important for the shipper and the consignee to be aware of what is accepted and what is not. And again, where the airlines transit their product, that can play a part too, because maybe destination accepts it, but it's not allowed to transit the country of that particular airline's hub. So it's something to really be aware of.
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that, it can make it to the airport and everything's all good, but from there, maybe we can't throw it on a truck and get it to the final destination. That's interesting.
Right. And even if it's perhaps maybe it's going, because we do have road feeder service and certain items are not allowed. We can carry it by aircraft, but we cannot carry it by truck. So that is something that you as a freight forwarder would not be aware of. We would have to be aware of that.
So when you run into those kinds of situations, what are the options for the shipper there?
Well, it does happen, unfortunately. We can either do our best to, if it's something that will fit on an aircraft, we'll do our best to fly it into that destination. But most often, our road feeder service is used for something that will not fit on an airplane, mostly passenger flights. We can offer termination in Hong Kong and allow the consignee to retrieve it. And worst case scenario, it comes back to Chicago. And it does happen. So we are doing our best to mitigate that. And we've learned a lot as we go along again with digitalization and IT, it's reducing the chance for those things to happen.
But even more reason to continue with the relationships and making sure that even in this digital world, that you can book and get a rate and book and do everything online. You may not know until after it's too late that that's not an option.
Exactly. And that is where that vital relationship comes in, because if you know what your shipper is sending, it might send a trigger to ask a few more questions. If I'm aware of what you guys are handling and I get to know your shipper through you, I kind of have a sense of what you're shipping. And I know that, I better ask a few more questions and make sure that this is okay to truck, or if we can fly it. Because those are sticky situations and nobody likes that. And again, those are things where we may say it's okay, we think it's something, but it's the customs that say, no, can't happen. And then we're done. Then we have to figure out a resolution.
Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to jump in really quick here. We have about 10 minutes left. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Chance and Mary, you have really great experts here to answer those. So definitely take advantage of that. And I will provide commentary as well.
Mary, if an exporter discovers an error in the paperwork after the shipment's been tendered to the airline, it's already in Cathay's possession, what options are available at that point?
Get a hold of the airline immediately and request a hold. And again, this relationship, you have access to our, if it's after hours, I'm not available, what have you, you can call our warehouse, tell them to put it on hold. Putting on hold is the absolute best thing you can do if you notice a discrepancy. It happens often. We can catch it in Hong Kong. Let's say something already departed and you have a change, you need a CCA, we can hold it in Hong Kong, no problem. Better to hold it in Hong Kong and nip it there instead of getting to destination, because that's, again, customs gets in there and it's a whole new game. So just notify us immediately and we'll hold it either here at origin or in transit in Hong Kong.
So, we've been talking about this a little bit the whole time, but if you could kind of add some closing thoughts, the shift towards electronic documentation, how has that changed the air export process?
It's great. It is reducing the paperwork. It is getting documents to destination before the cargo. It allows the consignee or customs to review those documents. They can find out there's a problem ahead of time. We do that with our trucking service. We send all the documents ahead of time. Is there a problem? We can take care of it before the cargo ever hits our dock. So things like that, it's just incredible. That less chance for human error by not having to enter, so many numbers and addresses, things like that. So it's really advancing the way we all do business.
With the electronic documentation, is that something that's accepted by most countries, or are there certain places that you're shipping that don't want it electronic, or how does that work?
Countries that they still want the paper airway bill. Not too many, but there are still some out there. But I would believe that eventually it will all be electronic.
That's interesting.
Is that something that, and I guess I'm a little far removed from the day-to-day ops on our side, I should know the answer to this, but if it is a country that requires paper documents and we transmit electronically to Cathay, is that something you would hold the shipment and wait for us to send originals, or we would send originals via courier?
Question. I do receive that question often. Can they do it that way? And we have the ability to look in our port information to see if it requires that. I'm not sure if our warehouse staff would be aware of that. Destination would certainly be aware of it, though. So they would let us know. It can be, if docks are missing, we can always send it on the next departing flight. We have a daily passenger flight. So let's say the cargo went on the freighter and there's a documentation missing, we'll send it on the passenger flight and they will meet up in Hong Kong.
So it'd probably be more something that would cause a delay with customs, not necessarily something Cathay would stop the shipment for. And so just something we should be aware of as freight forwarders, and then of course our customers and their relationship with their buyers.
And if you were uncertain or if you couldn't get a hold of someone, our Cargo Digital Hub would have all that information for you. It's a very useful tool, again, with the digitalization and the technology coming in very handy.
Well, so at this point, even though you're 29, you still have tons of experience in the industry. So could you give us what would one piece of advice to small or medium-sized companies that are trying to grow internationally through exports? What would that advice be?
Get out there and pay attention to what's going on in the world, not just locally. If you're looking to grow your business, attend industry-specific events. If you want to get into, pushing, food products or something, start going to those events. Be very aware of geopolitical events. If something is going on in one part of the world where that products are having difficulty getting there, that might be something you want to, but you got to stay on top of it. You have to be very aggressive, agile, and be poised for action. And just the U.S. Department of Transportation, see where goods are moving throughout the world. That's a very helpful tool because then you will know where product is moving.
Yeah, I think those are really great answers. Something that I keep hearing over and over, because I like to ask that as kind of a closing question to all of our guests, is just to be flexible and have, plan A, B, C, D, E, F at this point, and, have strong partners that are ready to help you whenever things inevitably do change and come up. So we really appreciate your insights there, Mary.
If I've learned one thing from this, there is no such thing as normal. When things return to normal, it's not going to happen. I don't think there is a normal. It's I think of all the things that have, just since I've been here with Cathay for 13 years, the things that the industry has gone through. And when I look at it as a whole, it's really quite amazing, really something. So if you want a job that's not boring, get into the aviation industry because it'll keep you on your toes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mary, we obviously think super highly of Cathay Pacific, and there's Jay popping in to say one of the best in the business, and we couldn't agree with that more. We really appreciate your time jumping in today. If you have any closing thoughts, please let us know. But other than that, join us next time. We're going to be doing a similar type conversation about ocean exports on our next Cargo Cafe, which should be really interesting. Glad to have kind of both ends there. And We're happy to have you, Mary.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be a spokesperson for my company, Cafe Cargo, and to be a part of my favorite forwarder, Best Way. Kansas City. Plug for Kansas City.
Amazing. We love to hear that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.